like the professor could get involved in and say to the government and to you, we don't want to separate from Somalia?
Actually, I'm really very sorry to see the professor in interpreting the history in the way in his own way, the way.
What's wrong with his interpretation?
The people of Somaliland were actually during 6 months from December 1990 to May 1991 were actually consulting in each other in reconciliating, thinking about the way forward after the war.
And what happened?
And what happened was the decision to withdraw from the Union. If the professor was not at that time in the country, it's not the fault of the people of Somaliland.
I'm not sure where the professor was. I'm sure he'll tell us.
Yeah, but his own brother, Professor Ahmed Ismail Samatar, who had the same opinion, has after 20 years actually came back to Somaliland and see the results of that decision with his own eyes. And when the professor is saying the regime has punished the people of the Somali Republic, which he is still denying the name of that former country, because it wasn't Somalia. Somaliland was never part of a country called Somalia. Somaliland was part of a union called the Somali Republic. So the regime in Mogadishu bombarded within military planes the cities of Somaliland, including Hargeisa, and 100,000 people are dead, and the evidence is there.
All right, I'm going to stop you there.
He has to tell me
Abdi wants to come in.
Which town in Somalia
Abdi wants to come in, and the professor
airplane.
Also wants to come in, and we have to move things forward because there are many people, many Africans watching and non-Africans who want to know where we're going to go from here, because there's a lot of division, and we're going to try and see if we can move forward. But lots of people have been getting involved in this discussion on our Facebook page, so let's take a look at a few of your comments. And we'll start off with this one from Miriam Nile, who says, "It makes me laugh that the United Nations will not officially recognize Somaliland until the African Union does. Since when did the UN place so much importance on the AU's view about anything on the continent? Clearly, there is some hidden politics going on behind the scenes." We have this post from Omar A. Islam, and Omar says, "Somalia and Somaliland should come together. We are the same people, the same religion. We should be brothers and sisters and not allow the old colonial masters to have the final victory by still living by their deadly tool of divide and rule." And finally, this from Muhammad Abdi Horn, who says, "Somalilanders are very proud of the stability we have and the building of our democracy. For over 20 years, we've had a peaceful transfer of power from one administration to another administration. That shows that Somaliland's democracy is mature. We also have a good relationship with the US and EU. The issue with us gaining recognition is political, not legal." There you go. And if you'd like to get in touch, here are a few ways in which you can do so.
Keep your thoughts coming in. You can email us or text us. Go to our Facebook fan page. Or you can follow us on Twitter.
Well, let's get back to our discussion now. Abdi Aziz Xildhiban, when you look at what's happening in Somaliland and you see the success and the stability they have compared to what's happening in Somalia, do you feel a sense of envy? Do you feel a sense, well, they can't go their own way, they shouldn't be allowed to go their own way? What's motivating your desire to keep them?
And first of all, let me thank to Professor and Abdi Ismail Samatar. And I would like to join him.
You have to get to your point very quickly.
Yes, I'm going to get. I would like to make one thing very clear. I mean, the so-called Somaliland has been saying all along.
You keep saying the so-called. Why?
I'm going to say what they were saying was the Somali National Movement is committed to the total liberation of the Somali Republic and shall oppose any division of the country into the regions or many states that that they are prejudicial to the unity of the country. That was what they were saying when they were fighting against the regime. And now easily they changed it. They moved to be a secessionist, or what I can say, and they are calling now the international community to be recognized.
They're not just calling now, they've been calling the 23 or more years.
It has never been recognized.
Why do you want to keep them? They don't want to be with you.
No, that's not true. They want to be with us, and we have got very
But he doesn't want to be with you.
Listen,
he doesn't want to be professor either.
No, listen, what I want to tell you is that there is only one clan which is calling the international community to be recognized as an independent state. There is a lot of, there is a clan system society in Somalia, and there is Warsangeli, Dulbahante, what I can say, Godibirsi, there is so many other tribes in Somalia which want to remain with Somalia. Now you have said there has been elections, and 97% of the Somaliland people have voted to be an independent
This is the referendum of 2001.
But that's not true. That has been motivated, or otherwise I can say that has been said, but that was not true. The reality on the ground is that most of Somaliland, I mean, I can say wanted to remain.
Well, look at the Somalilanders here in Britain, for example. Whether you're talking about the Somalilanders in Bristol or in Sheffield, they rose their flag after the city council voted for recognition, and they were jumping up and down in the street. I didn't see any counter demonstration.
Let me tell you, I mean, that won't change, I mean, the reality in Somalia. I mean, there is just few thousand or a few hundred of people in Bristol and Sheffield, which shows us that two cities have said the international community have to recognize.
Well, okay, we'll go back to the professor. Professor, how are we going to resolve this? Because, I mean, there were meant to be Turkish brokered talks earlier this year, but they haven't really happened. They haven't really taken off, despite the two presidents of Somaliland and Somalia saying they were minded to engage in these talks. How are we going to go forward?
Well, two things I want to say. The gentleman who was talking about me misinterpreting the history, there is an academic record which speaks to that, and I will be very happy to teach him those things. But the point I want to make here is this, and my compatriot from the other side is wrong when he divides the community into clans, because that's the very thing that has destroyed the country in the first place. If the purpose of this political project is to save the Somali people, whether they are in the north or in the south, both the regimes in the north, the politicians that is, and the politicians in the south, they are interested in their own projects rather than the well-being of the people of the Somali Republic, both in the north and in the south.
Why do you say that, Professor? Why do you say that?
Well, first of all, the reason I say this, I have traveled in both of those places. The gentleman talked about if I was there in 1991. Well, I'm sorry to disappoint him, because I was present not in Bur'o, but in other parts of the country, of the so-called Somaliland. And what they did was, the militiamen were the ones who forced the gathering to declare independence. That is a historical fact.
Absolutely.
And so if we want to serve the Somali people, young people are leaving Hargeisa and in the north in droves because they cannot get employment. They cannot, because the politicians are not focusing on those things. The young people in the south are exactly doing the same thing. In other words, both peoples, both in the north and the south, are being sort of hijacked by politicians.
But at the same time, Professor, if you look at the narrative, everybody's saying that at least in Somaliland there is no Al-Shabaab, there's stability, there's potential for economic development, and that's why they want to be free, so they can actually exploit what they have.
Well, the leader of Al-Shabaab comes from Somaliland. I want you to know that.
Well, that may be the case, but of course, if you look at what's happening in Somaliland, it seems to be quite stable.
Yeah. If you want to have the sort of an argumentation on itself, that's one thing. But the very reason why young people are leaving Somaliland, I met so many of them in Kenya and elsewhere, because there is no employment, there is corruption in this place. The country is not unified. The east is not quite part of Somaliland, and there is a military occupation there. And so the point we want to make is, recognition is one thing. The well-being of ordinary people in both of these territories as one people is another thing altogether.
All right, Professor, let me give the final word to Eid Hassan Musa. You heard there two opinions saying that your country is not really in a fit state to govern itself. Young people are leaving. You shouldn't be given this recognition. What do you say?
I believe Professor Abdi Samatar knows very well that in many African states, people are leaving. There is everywhere unemployment. It's the same elements, the same challenges that African states are facing, and they, not only African, but in developing countries are facing.
But they're not persuaded. They're not persuaded.
So, about the facts that actually Somaliland is an occupied territory by army, he can consult his own brother, Professor Ahmed Ismail Samatar. He was there. He went back there, and he holds actually in lectures everywhere.
So you're still determined to fight on?
Talking about what he saw in Somaliland, the reality in Somaliland. Right. So I invite the professor to go to Somaliland.
Maybe you can take him there yourself to Haggis.
With his own eyes.
All right, thank you very much.
I would like to
thank you very much indeed. We've got to stop.
Yeah,
thank you very much indeed. Because that's it for today. Thanks to all those of you who've sent in comments to us. Don't forget you can email us at the address on the screen, or you can text us, and you can follow us on Twitter. Many thanks to our guests, Eid Hassan Musa, Abdi Aziz Xildhiban, and Professor Abdi Ismail Samatar. Join us next week for another edition of Africa Today. Till then, it's goodbye. And on behalf of the whole team, thanks again for watching.